Welcome to Intro to E-Commerce, and like all good marketing, I'm going to set the expectations really low and hopefully surpass them. And so I haven't done a class specifically on e-commerce. I realize it seems weird that I'll get into those of you who don't know me, who I am in a little bit. But one of the things I'm going to mention is I have a hashtag here, and it's hashtag ND e-commerce. And several years ago, I was at Google. And one of the things about business, Silicon Valley is known as kind of a tech hub. There's lots of people and Google doesn't really give public tours anymore. But somehow they snuck me in, and we were checking it out, and they were saying, well, we don't like people necessarily knowing some of the unique things we're doing. And I got to thinking, well, it's not goofballs like me checking out Google Campus that all this cool technology that's getting out. It's the fact that Google and Apple and Hewlett-Packard employees are all riding the train back to San Francisco every day. And they're sharing information, meaning it's not by happen chance that vehicles initially came out of Detroit. It's not, if you think in terms of like North Dakota, where I started, a lot of tarps were built in the Dakotas, whether it was in North Dakota or South Dakota. And if you think about Fargo's kind of known as a tech hub now. And Grand Forks is known as for aviation. And I'm proposing the idea of why can't North Dakota be known for e-commerce? What's stopping us? Great Plains kind of led the way with technology. When it was founded, it kind of created a demand for people who understood tech. I realized they started in accounting, but it created a lot of tech people, and we're from an ag state. So what you're seeing now is you're seeing ag and tech being merged together, tech and aviation being merged together. And ultimately, when I talk to people about e-commerce, there's always something holding them back, and it's like anything, you just start. When a little bit about who I am. My name's Scott Bintz. Sometimes I'm called the Redheaded Rebel. Other times I'm called things I can't say. The reason I'm here talking about e-commerce is I started a company in my basement called realtruck.com, which is an e-commerce company that sells truck accessories. And over the years, that company, with the help of a lot of great people, has grown to over 100 million in sales. And of course, that all happened right here in North Dakota. And it happened, some of it's right time, right place, but some of it's just one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do is just, if you're not doing e-commerce and you want to do e-commerce, get started. Now, when I started in 1998, just like today, there's a lot of people trying to make money off of people trying to make money on the internet. So you have to pick your partners wisely. But anyway, that's why the Jamestown Entrepreneur Center, in conjunction with the James River Valley Library System, asked me to do this class. And it's an hour and a half, so it's kind of a awkward amount of time. And when we put it out there, that's my phone. Good little AC/DC, are you ready? We put it out there, people asked to live stream it, so this is the first time in my life I've done something like this live stream. And but anyway, a couple of quick advertisements for those of you either in live stream land or here, is that check out the newly created Jamestown Regional Entrepreneur Center. The executive director, Catherine Ross, she's here tonight. There's her email address. There's a website that about it, but it's to help encourage and inspire and assist business and entrepreneurialism. Also, in Jamestown, North Dakota, at the University of Jamestown is going to be a startup weekend. And I would encourage you, the dates are December 1st to December 3rd, a Friday through Sunday. And you get together and you form teams and you come up with a business ideal and you go through the whole process and you pitch it on Sunday. And some really cool stuff can come out of that. Just imagine if you take someone like myself who has a background in e-commerce and you tie them in with someone who maybe is in the business of doing home development, and imagine where some sort of ideal like that could do what you could do with say a mobile app. Or anyway, it's a cool event. They've done them in Fargo. I think they've done them in Bismarck. It's actually where, for those of you who are familiar in this area with emerging prairie, it's kind of how one of the things they did to get there going, and it's great for entrepreneurialism, so I'd encourage you to check it out. There's more information online. So I put together a lot of things to talk about for e-commerce. I mean, there's everything from the website, how you market it, to marketplaces, to video marketing, email marketing, converting, shopping cart, how do you get people to actually buy? So there's a lot of things that go under the e-commerce umbrella. And e-commerce really would be anything from generating leads. It could be to booking appointments if you're cutting hair. Some people think I need a haircut, but if you're cutting hair, where you could book it online, pay for it online, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of different avenues of e-commerce, but what I want to know for the people that are here, why are you here? Like, what are you wanting to know? How to specifically set up a website? Are you wanting to know how to take your website you have to the next level? Are you wanting, what are some of the questions you may have, or some of the things you'd like to learn? At the end of this, the last portion, we are going to do a Q&A, but I'd like to at least know up front what are some of the things you'd like to know or learn. Anyone?
SEO.
Okay, SEO. SEO is search engine optimization, for those of you who may not be familiar with the term. And essentially, that is when, whether it's on Bing or Google, when someone types in something, do you rank? And if you do rank, is the right page ranking for the right term? And so, yes, we'll be covering some stuff about SEO. What else?
Conversion.
Conversion. We will be talking about a little bit about conversion, on how to maximize the traffic that you do have, and how to the tools that are out there to help enhance the checkout process. So, for example, if you get 1,000 people to your website and 1% convert, right? That means you've got 10 customers. Imagine if you can take, with the same amount of traffic, if you make your conversion rate to 2%, you just doubled your business without increasing your traffic. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. What else?
I'd just like to figure out, like, should I go through like a Shopify to set up my e-commerce, or should I, go through the steps and do it myself?
Okay. Great question. On, where do I go to get a website? And one of the things, there's a number of ways you can do it. When Real Truck started, it was all custom development. We built our own card. Everything was custom, because in today's world, you have platforms that you can do custom development, but oftentimes you have platforms that you can get at a pretty low cost, and at some point you're going to probably need professional development, even with all of the tools that are out there, whether it's a Shopify. But we will cover that as well. Anything else?
How about inventory overhead versus drop ship?
Inventory overhead versus dropship. I don't have that in the presentation, but we can talk some about it at the in the Q&A section. But ultimately, my take on that would be, why double ship something? If it's possible in your structure. In the case of back in the day, in the case of pickup accessories, when Real Truck started, at first it was not a lot of people wanted to sell to e-commerce because they were afraid it would hurt brick and mortar. And let me be clear, e-commerce has not killed brick and mortar. Brick and mortar has lost customers because of how they treat customers. They haven't necessarily evolved. It's not in the aspect of e-commerce. I would expect to see, if Walmart, for example, is thinking ahead, that there's drive-through lanes where I can order online if I want something in 15 minutes and drive up there and pick it up without going in. But going back specifically to inventory, obviously some of that has to do with if you're a wholesaler or a retailer and what your distribution chain is. Because not all industries, some industries are very tight to protecting and not drop shipping. So at the same token, there's other industries that are way, way advanced. If you think in terms of like auto parts, you can pretty much get any auto part within a day because auto part stores have it dialed in. And yet most of the auto part stores, which we'll get into, but a lot of the auto part stores are just now getting into e-commerce, even though they had the most money, the most resources, the most inventory, and yet it's e-commerce only companies that at one time led the way with the auto part in e-commerce. Meaning, I think one of the reasons brick and mortar struggled with e-commerce is they tried to fit a brick and mortar experience into a desktop website, which isn't the same. And now the next evolution is, if you're an e-commerce company, an e-commerce only company, and that you've done very well with desktop, now you have the mobile evolution. And of course, the people that are really knocking it out of the park are doing it mobile only, whereas sometimes you have desktop websites, e-commerce companies that are trying to fit a desktop into a mobile experience. And which it's not the same if you're trying to jam all that content into a mobile phone. But we can talk a little bit about inventory and distribution. But if you're it's certainly possible to sell a lot of stuff and never touch anything. Real Truck did it. Amazon does it. And they also have fulfillment centers too. So it's not like they don't touch anything. Any other things that you want to learn? Okay, so that kind of gives me a gauge. A friend of mine, 6 months to a year of your life, part or full-time, is worth the possibility of creating the best thing that you've ever done in your life. Jake, co-founder of Marriott Mobile. With e-commerce, I think the biggest obstacle is that the same thing that at one time at Real Truck that we encountered was this aspect of perfection. Meaning, sometimes we don't want to do something until it's absolutely perfect versus you just want to start. For example, when I left, for those of you who don't know, I sold Real Truck, but when I left Real Truck, we had over 30 million YouTube channel views. That didn't start with one grand video that went wild. It started with one video, and then another video, and another video, and another video. And our general marketing ideals, we just wanted to be helpful to people. And so we started kicking out helpful videos. And over time, 30 million channel views is kind of like owning your own third-rate cable TV channel. But anyway, it does take time, it does take work. So stop thinking about, start doing it. Just start, learn as you go, ask questions, don't get sidelined by perfection, and published is better than perfect. What I mean by that is that if you have an e-commerce website, you're always going to be improving it. Always. And one of the things that I learned early on was that I probably shouldn't necessarily, when I was in pickup accessories, and I was following people in pickup accessories. So at one time, there's probably 1,000 websites that sold pickup accessories online. And I was looking at all of those from time to time. And I needed to look at, if I wanted to do well in e-commerce, I needed to pay attention to those doing well in e-commerce, not those in my space. Because maybe those in my space are doing it wrong. And so, at that time, we kind of shifted to looking at the Musician's Friend and Cafe Press and Amazon and Zappos and other great e-commerce companies to kind of look at what they were doing within their sector. But just remember that the key is to start. How big is it? Next year it's projected to be $525 billion just in the U.S. That represents about 11 to 12% of all retail sales. So, and it's growing. So we've just begun, so to speak, in the aspect of you think, well, maybe I'm too late. My experience in anything, there's always room for better. There is always room for better. The mobile tipping point. If you're familiar with e-commerce, you know this, but mobile traffic has surpassed desktop traffic a little while ago, back in 2014. What I mean by that is that, and it's growing. Now, the money is still in desktop. If you're in e-commerce, you're probably making more money. Amazon tends to be an X factor. But in most cases, with e-commerce, you're probably getting most of your revenue from desktop, but mobile is growing and growing and growing. And as we know, those of us who are older, I have adult kids that don't even have a desktop. Mobile is definitely the future. There's types of e-commerce. There's most of us are familiar with business to business. There's business to consumer, which is what most of us partake in. My first purchase that I kind of was from Staples.com in must have been 1997. I thought it was cool that I had set up a little office. This was before Real Truck. And I liked the fact that I didn't have to go shop for office supplies. Now, at that time, I ordered it. There was a lot of things that weren't, I don't even know if I got an email receipt of the purchase. And I had no idea when it was going to show up. And obviously, a lot of those things are advanced. There's consumer to consumer, of course, eBay, Etsy, those kind of things. Consumer to business, which is your crowdsourcing sites. You've got business administration, which is business services to public administration or government. And then, of course, you have consumer administration, which is anything from the health and industry and accounting services to education. So what percentage of your business is e-commerce? Well, of all the sales in the U.S., in 2016, it was 11.7% of the sales. So, and it's growing at 15+% a year. So, where do you want to start? When I left Real Truck, over 90% of the sales were online. and then a small percentage of the sales were over the phone. And I felt at that time, and what we were trying to accomplish is that if people had to call us to make a purchase, we weren't doing a very good job of laying out the website, right? We should make it as easy as possible. And, but essentially you have desktop, mobile app, you have marketplaces, right? Where are the customers at? You know, where are the people buying stuff from? Do you need all of them? Some of them? And of course, I think that depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But Business 101 has made it easy for people to do business with you however and whenever they want to. Because that's what, as a consumer, that's how we live today. So where the customers are, here's where, and this is primarily going to talk about the United States, but where people shopped online is that 54% of the people have shopped on a marketplace. That's your Amazons, that's your eBays, that's your Etsy's. There's specialty marketplaces, large retailers, web stores, specialty category. This is where Real Truck would have fell into. As a specialty detailer. And so obviously our shopping, we have a lot of confidence and shop at a lot of different places. Website traffic. So this is from Google Analytics benchmarking for last year, but 57% of the traffic is mobile. So if you have an e-commerce company, you best be looking at it on mobile. You best look at it on mobile because that's where a huge chunk of your traffic's coming. But again, going back, the desktop still tends to generate more revenue than mobile. But obviously you have everything evolving to cross-market. So that's a little background on the actual where the marketplace is. And again, the mobile is expected to keep growing and growing and growing because the reality of it is, as you get more comfortable, as business evolves to make the shopping experience easier on mobile, then it's easier to return to mobile to buy. You don't have to go to your desktop when you want to order something when it's made easy to do from your mobile device. And one thing about mobile development, if you can make it look good on mobile, it'll also translate into desktop. It'll work on desktop. But for most e-commerce solutions, I would focus on mobile because that's where the future's at. Think in terms of like when Real Truck first started, the brick and mortar truck accessory stores were focusing on that and didn't really put any resources into e-commerce. So you had companies like Real Truck who didn't have any inventory, didn't have any money, didn't have any resources, didn't have any employees, wound up being the biggest online retailers because of focusing on that. And I would also make that argument for focusing on mobile. If you can get the mobile experience dialed in for e-commerce, that's going to benefit you for years to come. So, website options. You have custom development, you have Shopify, Blusion, Big. Here's all of the different places that you can pretty much, in today's world, there's a platform. You don't necessarily have to have custom development, but there's a platform out there that you can get into relatively cheap, and where if you can load up images and type text, you can get going. One of the ones I like the best is WooCommerce, which is on WordPress. And at some point, to really dial it in, you're probably going to need to hire a developer. Obviously, if you're a bigger company, you have a little bit more resources to spend money. But I assure you, with like WordPress and WooCommerce, you can get selling and begin to help generate some income to pay to further enhance your site. going back to, again, a lot of the things with e-commerce have already been developed. There's lots of shopping carts you can integrate with. There's just lots of things you can do that companies like Real Truck and the early starters paved the way for. I mean, our first shopping cart probably cost 50 grand, to really get it dialed in. Obviously now you can get one for next to nothing. Matter of fact, most of the going back to that slide, most of the smaller providers here, it's just included in their monthly fees. In the case of like WooCommerce, I think it's like just $150 for the whole year. So it's pretty affordable. There's mobile app options as well. I'm not going to cover, I don't have a ton of experience in mobile apps. To give you a little bit about mobile apps, Amazon, of their mobile shopping, almost all of it is through their mobile app. The value of a mobile app is you obviously can save some customer information, but then you also have to be good at marketing your app to get people to download it in the huge amount of apps that are available online. At Walmart, on the other hand, I don't know how they are exactly today, but last year they sold on the mobile, they sold most of theirs on a mobile website, not on a mobile app. But again, Amazon embraced the mobile app way before a lot of people did. So in most cases, unless you're adding value to something, you may not need a mobile app. Although there are companies that are strictly mobile apps that don't even have a mobile website, which, again, depending on the space you're in. And then, of course, you have marketplaces. Most of those website companies, those developers, WooCommerce, Shopify, does give you product feeds that you can use to load to marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Facebook store, and so forth. But you want to be where the customers are. At one time, I don't know if Real Truck does it anymore. At one time, Real Truck loaded products to the marketplace, and then we moved away from it. But in today's evolving world, I would be where the customer's at. The reality of it is that 50% of people shopping online are buying through a marketplace. That's where the customer's at, or on marketplaces. In the Black Friday through Christmas period, it's 60% shop through a marketplace. And so it pays. Now, obviously, does everybody know how Amazon works? So essentially, I'll explain it real quick. So Amazon started out in books, right? And they've obviously evolved into more things than I could possibly explain. But one of the game changers for Amazon is they became a marketplace where if a company could load up a product and sell it on Amazon, and Amazon would be the intermediary. And Amazon would charge, I don't know what they charge now, but they charge 11 to 14% to do this. And then someone else can load up that same product and they would stack it. So now you have one e-commerce. What product or service are you offering? What need are you fulfilling? What makes you unique in your sector? So when back in the day with Real Truck, there was a lot of people selling pickup accessories online. A lot of them. And the general marketing theme was a lot of coupon codes and 10% off site-wide or 20% off site-wide and lowest price guaranteed everywhere and et cetera, et cetera. And so we looked at the space and it was like, well, we're never going to be the cheapest, right? As long as you got Amazon out there, it's a little hard to be the cheapest all the time, so to speak, because it tends to drive prices down for consumers. And so what can we do? Well, we can be an expert in our space. We can be an expert in our sector, pickup accessories, and we can really focus hard on giving a really good customer experience. And we did free shipping both ways at that time. And where nobody else did that in our sector. So we just found some things that we could be better at than anyone else. And then we under-promised and over-delivered. So if we knew, going back to inventory management, if we knew something would ship in a day, we would tell customers 2 days to make sure we always shipped sooner than we said we would. And what that created was people would be pleasantly surprised because 95% of the stuff we shipped a day early. Now, sometimes we would lose some sales to competitors that would advertise everything ships today. However, how do you feel when you order something and it says it's going to ship today and it doesn't? You remember that. They don't do what they say. And so we were creating memorable experiences every time someone purchased something, because it would always ship before we said it would. Oh, well, 95% of the time is what the stat shows. So my point is that I think it's important that when you're looking at what you're wanting to do with e-commerce, that you feel some needs or do something that other people aren't doing to separate yourself from the pack. And again, every industry is a little bit different. Every sector is a little bit different. Some marketing basics. Everybody hear about Gander Mountain going bankrupt? There's this huge sporting goods company went bankrupt. Why? I don't know specifically, but when I looked at their website, it didn't have much content. It had 40% off site-wide, this is before they went bankrupt. Had coupon codes galore, of which when you put them in the cart, they tell you that that item isn't discountable. So with Gander Mountain, they tried to be all things to all people. Their whole model was buy from us, buy. They had low quality images, they had very little content, so you couldn't self-educate yourself on a product, and ultimately they're trying to be all things to all people. Useful marketing wins. So if you're Cabela's, you know what Cabela does? Cabela's helps you hunt better, it helps you fish better, it helps you sport better. All of their content is fairly deep, and it's designed to help you do whatever it is you want to do better. In the case of, if you think about eBay helps people sell stuff. In the case of Real Truck, one of the things that Real Truck did was we did a lot of how-to videos and on how to install things, whether you got them from us or not, how to make your truck look nice, how to get better gas mileage, how to where useful marketing wins. So, whereas in some industries and sectors you have, like in the case of truck accessories, there's some manufacturers that have minimum advertised prices. Anybody know what that is? So like say a iPhone, if you're going to buy an iPhone, they're pretty much the same price everywhere. That has to do with, they have unilateral price policies that say, hey, our marketing is this, and so if you want to sell our widget, you need to advertise it for this, or a minimum advertised price is different than a unilateral price policy. A minimum advertised price is, hey, you can sell it for any price you want, but if you advertise it below this price, we're going to pull half your discount, for example. In the case of unilateral, you're signing an agreement that says you'll sell it for a certain price. So with those kind of items, you traditionally cannot discount that in an e-commerce shopping experience. And so one of the reasons, for example, with being all things to all people, that at that time we moved away from coupon codes was because 35% of the items we sold had a minimum advertised price, which means we'd have to say, hey, I realize we're advertising 10% off with this coupon code, but the item you added is excluded. So I think with marketing, if you have a lowest price in the world or 10% off, and then you have a 30-page exclusions, it's not a very effective marketing policy, although companies do it all the time. But it certainly leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. And in today's world, when you think about e-commerce, you think about customers for life. Customers for life, because they're going to, as long as you treat them well, they're going to keep coming back, depending on what it is you're marketing to. So, website sources by channel. So this is going back to Google benchmarking. So, of the traffic that's going to come to a typical website, 17% is going to be natural. Search engine optimization, we heard. 6% is going to be referral. That means someone else is referring them to you. You're on someone else's website. In the case of like with Real Truck at that time, if a manufacturer that we sold listed as a dealer, that would be classified as a referral. Email. Email represents in 21% of traffic. Isn't that interesting? The cheapest thing you could possibly do would be build an email marketing list, right? And that's where a lot of traffic comes from. Display, the display ads. So when you go to CNN or all those sites, all those ads that you see, those are display ads. Direct is when the best, if you're an e-commerce company, the best thing you can do is if someone types in your name directly and comes right to you. Because that will convert the best versus going through the search engines. It's the same reason why Google would look at an Amazon as a competitor. You say, why would Google look at Amazon as a competitor? What do you need Google for if you're shopping? You just go right to Amazon. And then paid. Paid represents a bigger chunk. And you say, well, why would you want to do paid if you can get this pieces of the pie fairly cheap? The reason I think you want to do paid is because it's a percentage of your traffic that you can control. Whereas back in the day with search engines and rankings and all of that, if a search engine changes an algorithm and all of your business comes from natural, your business could be out of business with one algorithm change. And so there's an aspect of paid that is, from a business standpoint, is nice to have, and in e-commerce, it's not e-commerce companies oftentimes don't have hey, we're going to spend $1,000 a month on advertising. If you're an e-commerce company, you figure out what your ROI is, or your ROAS, ROI, return on investment, or return on ad spend. A lot of the advertising platforms base their results on those one of those two things. But if you know, for example, you sell a widget for $100 and it costs you $70, and your gross margin is 30%, your shipping was $6, and you made $24, you can advertise that and spend $23.50 and still make money. So your advertising budget isn't necessarily $1,000 a month. Is if the ROI is this, turn it up. Turn it up. So with paid ads, as you optimize them, once you figure out your ROIs and you have a widget selling, then you optimize off of that ROI. Obviously, with a company such as back when I owned Real Truck, you had everything from $50 items to $3,000 items. You tended to do ROI by category, and so you'd have a general idea. We can spend this much per sale on ads, because again, the one thing nice about websites is you can track everything, so you know exactly what's happening. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about website design and structure. Part of what affects search engine optimization, as well as there's a battle if you're in websites between optimizing for the consumer experience, right? The user's experience going through the website versus a search engine's ability to read your website. So, and ultimately you target a page, going back to you can't be all things to all people, you can't have a website or a page within a website target everything, because you'll rank badly for everything. So think in terms of, this is kind of a typical website, I got Zappos up there, but essentially they have categories, right? Shoes, purses, and they have, in their particular case, they have their kind of filters, or you have shoes for women, right? You have those women, men, kids. They also have pages for brands. So within shoes, if you have a shoe category, you have blue shoes and black shoes, you have different shoe sizes, right? But if someone wants to rank for shoes, that would be the top level. You're talking about all shoes, men's shoes, women's shoes, kids' shoes. Once you get to women's shoes, you should only be talking about women's shoes on a page. And then you go further down as you add filters to that, whatever it is. And again, depending on what you're selling and what you're selling will depend on your website structure, but it's very important for if you want consumers or you want a search engine to be able to read it. So going back to if you have if you have shoes and they're women's shoes and you have blue women's shoes, that page better be talking about blue women's shoes. And if you have blue shoes on every page of your website, you won't rank for anything, because again, you have to look in terms of Google or Bing, when they're indexing your site, all they can read is the text and the coding. So going back to, we'll cover it in a little bit, but so essentially it's very important that you have your website structure, your categories, your services, filter pages that pivot off of those correctly, and even in case of products. So if you have, let's take, for example, I'm not familiar with all the Nike shoes out there, but I would expect that Zappos has a page that has all of Nike shoes, right? You can't have a product called Nike shoes because it's going to compete with the brand page Nike shoes. So with the Nike shoes, individual shoes, they all have names. You know, Nike, Air Jordans, blah, 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 blah. So if you type in Nike Air Jordans, there's going to be a page within Zappos just for those shoes, and it's going to have a breadcrumb trail that's going to probably say shoes and whatever filters it is. You know, probably athletic shoes. I'm not totally familiar with shoes, but so anyway, it's very important to have your website structured. Now, natural traffic equals good SEO. Rather than get into it really, really deep, oftentimes all your answers can be found online. If you search Google SEO Starter Guide, there's a PDF here that will tell you everything you need to know about the general practices of SEO. We'll talk about your category structure, not having competing conflict. It will talk about, so for example, on a website, if I was selling shoes, my home page would be targeting my company name, Scott Shoes. I might have a category that has just shoes, and the images on that page, the main image on that page is the file name of that image will be just shoes.jpg or .gif, whatever the image I'm using. That way it indicates to Google this page is about shoes. It's going to have an H1 that says shoes. And then it's going to talk about all the kind of shoes. We got shoes for men and women and kids, and then blue ones and black ones, and all these brands, da-da-da. So it's going to have some content related to shoes. And then within that, it will have, obviously, all the shoe categories, all the shoe brands that will be on that page, and as you go deeper. But anyway, that's where you can find that is, Bing also has one, so I don't want, Bing, you know, oftentimes people will forget about Bing, but one of the things about Bing, even though it does have a lesser percent than Google, obviously is the king of the search engines, but with Bing, if you're in e-commerce, Bing is a nice place because it tends to have an older audience. My joking comment for that is that oftentimes older people don't realize they can change their browser. But those older people have more money too, so Bing converts way better. When you have a website, you want to submit it for indexing to the search engines, and so Google Search Console. You also have Bing Webmaster Tools. You want to set up all of your social profiles and link to your website because that is like having an external link pointing to you. And then you want to search what you want to rank for. And obviously, the basics of SEO is if I search for my company name, I would expect that I will rank. If I don't, it's probably because I don't have the page crafted in a manner, it's either not indexed to Google or the conflict's confusing. At the same token, if I do rank and it's the wrong page, I need to go back to the website and update the content so it's more clear on this, whatever it is I'm trying to rank for. And so, to take a step back, again, not necessarily totally understanding the range of knowledge we have in the room, is that when it comes to ranking, Google's pretty smart. So in pickup accessories, for example, Google kind of knows the difference between a vent visor and a rain guard and a window deflector. All three of those things. However, when you're writing your content, if you try to rank for every version of a window visor, you're probably not going to rank very well versus just going after and trying to rank at one of them. So maybe in that particular case, one might call their category a window deflector, and then all the products within that category, whatever brand, whatever sub-brand window deflector. Then you have more content supporting window deflector. Not what oftentimes you get is that people will try to, again, rank for everything, and it's better to focus on your space than try to be number one for everything, because that's just not going to happen. And then the second aspect of SEO is, again, going back to, is the right page coming up for that keyword? So if I searched, enrolling in college UJ, I would expect the page that has that information on it, the enrollment application page, to show up. If it doesn't, it's because the website is confusing. If enrolling for college in a paragraph of text about enrolling in college is on 15 pages, which one is Google supposed to pick exactly? If it's not very clear with your breadcrumb trail and your category structure, as well as the page content. This is one that you might want to take a picture of, but essentially, with search engine optimization, what do you want to rate for? You want to consider your market, local, state, regional, national, worldwide. Are the right pages coming up for the right keywords? Once the right page comes up for the right search, then work on improving the results. And how you work on improving the results is that you ultimately through whether it's social links, other people linking to your site, having useful content. And again, your site structure and content is critical for good SEO results. Better to rank well for a few keywords than badly for many. Everyone's gonna make pictures. So there's lots of tools. I'm using all-in-one on a Google Chrome browser. I'm using all-in-one SEO MetaClick. But essentially, you can run the tool and it'll tell you what the title is for the page, the description, and the keywords. So every page in a website has a title, a description, and keywords. It also has an H1. So if you look here, this is the H1 for that page. Here's the breadcrumb trail that supports that H1. And of course, then there's page content that's related to this page about women's shoes. And then, so that's kind of like a category level. What I would call it is a category filter page where it's essentially shoes filtered by women. Women's shoes, so you got women's shoes in the H1, you have it in the meta title, you have it in the meta description is reinforcing that, shop the best selection of shoe brands for women. And sometimes you might add, free shipping if you're offering that or whatever. That goes back to right here. These are what's showing up here is coming from your page. And if it's clear, it's going to be the page meta title and description. If it's not clear, Google or Bing will randomly pick something from the page. Then you have product SEO, which again, same kind of thing. So here, it's under shoes, it's under boots, and it's under that brand. And here's the H1. So if I searched UGG shoes, I wouldn't wind up on this page because that would most likely be a brand page showing all the UGG shoes. This one is specific to the UGG Classic Short II Metallic one. And of course, again, you have a meta title description. It's talking about the shoes. Free why buy from them, which would show up perhaps in the meta description you see on Google. But here you got an H1, you got a description. Here they got a lot of information on it. They got images. My guess is, and they have a video. Most of those images probably have this product name in the file name. Why would you put it in the file name? Google can't read an image. They want to read the file name that's in it has the image. So if you have an H1 is this, all your image file names have that in it. You have text on the page about it. You're going to rank pretty well if someone searches UGG Classic Short shoes. Or if you take a step back, again, UGG shoes or women's shoes. Again, on a category page, I would expect if the page was women's shoes, that all the products on there are women's shoes.
Hey, question. Does it have to be the file name for the picture, or is it in the alt-ref stuff? That
You can,
put?
yeah, that's a little more advanced. But you can put it in there.
Does it
but
actually read the name of the image, though, or is it just that?
It reads the file name too,
Okay.
but it'll read the alt tag too. There's an alt tag if you are using a platform and it's asking you for the alt name. So in that case, it'd be Classic 2 shoes. You put that in there. But again, one more pointer to Google or Bing is if it's in the file name too. It's just how many pointers are on this page letting them know this is legit content. And again, in the case of like back when I was at Real Truck, when we built pages, we tried to go really deep on content. There's no replacement for just taking the time to. Now, you don't want to have a page so busy that people who just want to buy can't buy. But at the same token, if someone wants to go deep, so if we had a product video, we put it on the product page. If we shot a second product video, we'd also put it on there. If we had installation guide, it's on this page. So landing page optimization, this is a little bit about checkout, but a little bit about, this is a product, and obviously you want to have, where's it at? In stock, ready to ship. Did you know 47% of the shoppers, according to UPS, bail if you don't tell them when it's going to ship? So you're done with 47% of the people that come to your website if you do not tell them when it's going to ship. A little off topic, but in this particular case, you can do A/B testing. So with like Optimizely or other sites where you can make this button blue and green and gold and da-da-da and all sorts of colors, figure out which one converts best. But there's probably a reason Amazon has the buttons it has, because again, as you get sales, just imagine if you got 5% more people to add to the cart, what that does to the bottom line. Knowing that this percent of the people will abandon the cart. Again, the further you can get down the purchasing funnel and the more people, anything you can do to optimize it. But going back to landing page optimization, here again you have the product line name, you have this is going to be Gibson, right? It's going to be in the file name most likely of the brand name. These here, it's calls to action, the price, nice and clear. Obviously there's different order controls if you got colors or sizes or that kind of thing. Add it to the wish list. There's lots of things that you can do on website landing page optimization, but again, it gets into if you're, with some of the websites that I consult on, I'm mainly trying to help them with their mobile experience. So I'm looking at my mobile phone and not only doing A/B tests to see what performs better, but doing it in a mobile fashion, because I think that's where the future is, and if you can get it to display nice. But ultimately, you want a lot of information about the product or about the category, but not in the way of the purchase, but where it's there if they need it. That's why you see a lot of more buttons or drop down, where oftentimes it has a lot of things on that page.
Scott, the keywords is consistent should be in the file page, website, the keywords.
Yeah, you don't want to do keyword spam only, but again, if this page is about Gibson Les Paul Tribute Electric Guitar, I would expect that to be in the H1, in the meta title, might be in some of the image file names and the alt tags. It might be referenced once or twice on the page. Just like I would expect on the Gibson guitar page that had all of the Gibson guitars, that it was talking about, hey, view all of the Gibson guitars. We've got the Les Paul one, we've got the blue one, the pink one, the green ones, the et cetera, et cetera. And so, and there are Google ignores them. Back in the old days, sometimes you'll hear about white hat and black hat SEO techniques, but back in the old days, people would literally put white text on the page with Gibson Les Paul Tribute 1,000 times on the page, and it would rank. Because if you're Google, right, if you're Google or you're Bing, you have a vested interest in a couple of things. One, if someone searches something, you give them good results, fast. So that also ties into even speed. If you have a slow chugging website, you ain't gonna rank. Because if I go to Google and I search something, and they give me some links, and I click the link and it takes 10 minutes for it to load, that's going to reflect badly on Google. Maybe I'll go to Bing. So the search engine aspect is there's lots of different things that are taken into account. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're into this an hour. So content is king only. Here is content essentially is things that allow you to benefit by natural SEO, social, videos, paid ads, right? You could create a how-to guide that you put in your website that you advertise, and then you get some what's the best home for me to buy, I don't know. Or that kind of thing where you do a helpful article and you drive traffic to it, whether it's, but anyway, so you've got content marketing, top-rated digital marketing techniques, they're kind of all there, social, mobile, marketing automation. Marketing automation is, for example, if you, and there's platforms you can do it with, but let's talk about MailChimp. If you integrate MailChimp into your website, and you get people to sign up for your newsletters, you can do abandoned shopping cart emails. That will increase your conversion rate 12%. So if you send someone an abandoned cart email, at least in my experience, about 12% of those. So you get this freaky email that says, hey dude, you forgot your shopping cart. Click here if you want to check out. Well, when you get those emails, that increases the conversion rate. So imagine now you have this low-cost method that you can increase your conversion rate 12% that you just got to integrate. But obviously, all of that's a process. Here's a quick one on, if you guys want to take a picture of it, I'm not going to cover it because I kind of talked about it, but this is in more detail, but landing page optimization, good headlines, images, description, bullets, call to action, you know, what do you want them to do on the page, make it clear, testimonials, technical specs, guarantees, related media, you mean more pitch, more videos, related links, price and shipping time, deadlines, offer explanation, those kind of things are all critical. Types of content, again, I'm not going to cover it, but there's cheap and easy, there's expensive, but so obviously status updates on your social profile is easy and cheap. Writing a book, a little more difficult. So, but articles, how-to guides, website copy, infographics, newsletters, white papers, videos, pictures, webinars, all sorts of content that you can create. Or you can also, if you're going to be useful, you can also share other people's content. Just make sure it's good content. It's kind of like, think in terms of if you have content on your website or in your social profile and you refer it to someone, just think about it in terms of the better you are at getting people to the right place, the more credibility you're going to have. So imagine if you would swing into a convenience store and the person gives you bad directions, you're never going to do that again, versus your website or your social profile will also increase its credibility if the links you have on it are legit. So again, if you're sharing other people's content, just make sure it's not fake news or junk content. Why support website marketing content? A website is not enough. It makes good financial sense. It's measurable interaction, drives web traffic. So if you're an e-commerce company, a lot of the things you do should be designed to drive people to your website, because at that point you can track them, you can retarget to them, which is once someone, you can put code on your website, we'll get into it briefly, that you can then remarket to people. So imagine if I took an ad out in the New York Times, a full page ad advertising my widget, how many percentage of the people would actually be my customer? Very small, right? But once someone's been to now take it in a digital form, once someone's been to my website, I can re-advertise to them, just them, very cheap. So even whether it's Facebook ads or Google, you can actually, if you have a contact list of your customers, phone, email, one or the other, and load it up, Google and Facebook knows whose that is, and you can advertise just to them. Or there's also tracking you can put on your website to accomplish the same thing. So in the case of, and then you can also sector those visitors into, okay, if they've bought, they're in this bucket. Then you can go and say, hey Google, I want to advertise to people in North Dakota or people in the continental United States that look like these people that have already bought from you. say it again. So someone comes to your website and they buy. You can put them in buckets that you can then remarket to them and say, hey, buy something else. Here's something else you might like. Or you can also do, Google calls them similar audiences, and Facebook calls them lookalike audiences. But essentially you can say, hey, give me people in my town that look like people that have already bought. So some of you know that after I sold Real Truck, I got into the storage business, right? So, and obviously I kind of knew how to rank well in Google and all of those things. And so, but one of the things that when we advertise, we know who's already rented storage units, right? And so we say, hey, we don't want to advertise to them because they're our customers. But we want to advertise to people that are like that look just like them in this geographic area. And that's a lot cheaper than buying the full page where you pay for everything even though you're totally missing your target market. So digital ads can be way more calculated than your traditional advertisements. No, not trying to diss TV and radio and all of those things because they serve their purpose, but from a standpoint of in the e-commerce world, when you can track all of your traffic and track all of your ads, it's hard to necessarily go traditional. Digital advertising, just real quick, here's the general types. Paid search, which is your keyword search. The value of that, it's calculated and targeted, so if you know that blue shoes converts, or let's just say you have a website and you sold a t-shirt that says, I love redheads, and it sells, right? You can look in your Google Analytics, which we'll talk about in a second, and then you could build a page for t-shirts for redheads, right? And then you can bid, I love redhead t-shirt, so you show up in the top results, and then if the ROI works, you can keep selling them all day long, so to speak. You have product listing ads, which are shopping campaigns. These are these image ads like this. Those often, most of those website platforms have, quote, product feeds. So all of the products you've loaded to your website, you can put in a feed, and you can feed it to the Google Merchant Center, which will allow it to show up here. So if you're like rocking it, I would expect Nike would come up #1 for Nike shoes. But in the case of here, they got it here with keyword search, product listing ads here, and of course they come up #1 natural. So they probably get 80% of the traffic for the term Nike shoes. You have display advertisement, which is those display ads that you see when you go to CNN or other websites like that, the ads that you see in all sorts of sizes. You have remarketing, and remarketing can be done with keywords, can be done with videos, can be done with product. So remarketing to people who've already visited your site, whether they bought or not bought, can be done in all those platforms. You have video, you can do video advertisement on YouTube, on display network, etc., the same kind of thing. And then, of course, email and social. Again, in today's world, Twitter has ads, Instagram has ads through Facebook. And in the case of Facebook, for example, you can load your Facebook catalog. You can put tracking on your website that says to track the buyers, and then you can say to Facebook, hey Facebook, I want to advertise my catalog to people who look like people who bought from my website. Anyway, here's just showing cool work shoes. Again, the product listing ads, the keyword search. Here's your display ads. These here are coming from product listing ads. So the product listing ads you've seen on Google, it's the same thing powering this display ad. It's just inserting the product from that website there. But essentially, with display advertising, image ads, text ads, rich media, some of the interactive stuff, video, liquid and dynamic, which is again those product ads have you. Couple of quick things, social, make sure you get your profiles. Video, you have Facebook and YouTube. If you notice, like we were talking earlier before we started, that when you share, if you can't help but notice that when you share a YouTube video on Facebook, it doesn't get any traction anymore. So in terms of video marketing, obviously you can direct load to Facebook, you can direct load to Twitter, you can direct load to LinkedIn, you can direct load to YouTube. I'm not going to get into that too much, but ultimately, video marketing, a couple of things, the same thing that applies to video marketing. So if you're video marketing, remember to optimize. So where you have a good title, make sure you have a description in there, right? You can add closed captions to support what's in the content. I would expect something like this to be in a tonneau cover playlist, and you might have another playlist for if you are doing shoes. I might have a playlist for shoes, and then I might have another playlist for women's shoes. I might have another playlist for running shoes. And again, in the case of whatever you're marketing, if you think in terms of usability, what people might like in your audience, which in ones that I'm familiar with, how does it install, how do you use it, how do you, and what, in the case of Real Truck, when I sold it, we had 30 million channel views. We just we put up 8 videos a week. That was it. We didn't do fancy production. We just did genuine from the heart. Essentially, a few different kinds of videos. How do you install this? And then the other kind of video we did was we called them fast facts, which is kind of in 30 or 60 seconds or less what I like about this product. That's it. And then we would put that on YouTube, put it on Facebook, you put it on, then you also you associate that video on that products page or the most appropriate category page or wherever it would fit in your website. And again, in today's world, you can do that with a Facebook video or a YouTube. I'm not going to cover this because we're running out of time for the FAQ, but video advertising, essentially, you can do it everywhere. So you can load up a video to YouTube and then through Google AdWords, turn around and advertise it on YouTube or on the Google in the display network. You can also do video on Facebook where you can publish a video and then you can turn around and advertise it. And in some cases, people do videos just for advertisement, and otherwise, or sometimes they'll do them for social. My experience was we always did them for both purposes, socially and for advertising purposes. And again, email marketing basics. I'm not going to cover this, but there are providers out there that usually you can hook up with a free account. You can put code on your website. You can start building your list. Most of them have it automated, so you can hook up an abandoned cart email, particularly if it was on whether it's Shopify, WooCommerce, and all of that, where you can set it up with a little clicking around, abandoned cart emails, retargeting emails, all of those kind of things. But essentially, with email marketing, it integrates to your other marketing efforts. It's full control over your customers or people who've signed up for your list. It's like the cheapest way you can stay in touch with your people. If you send too many emails, they'll unsubscribe. My former company, I think we did somewhere between 6 and 12 a month. And obviously not all the same people, but new products, what you might like if you have this vehicle, or what you might like if you have this lifestyle, or what you might like if you bought this, or what you might like if you looked at this, those kind of things. And again, there's many providers, Constant Contact, Bronto, MailChimp, easy templates, easy to sign them up. And there's manual and automatic options. What to share, a little bit on that. What most popular content that's being shared. Obviously, this is an older slide because the most popular content shared now is what? Videos. But articles, interesting information, pictures, videos, coupons, discoveries, insights, ask questions. Profile basics, make sure you have an effective description. Remember to add a link to your website and other social profile medias. Hashtags are good, but don't overuse them. A good profile will help with the search results, right? Because it's another link from a credible website pointing to your website. Also, on social media 101 only is you might have all these profiles for your brand or whatever, but better to be good at one or two than bad at all of them. So pick one and get good at it before you start going crazy and tweeting, meaning get one social marketing effort going well before you expand into another one, so to speak, because again, you want to make sure you have time to engage your customers and answer questions, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, don't be an egg. What I mean by that is that one of the easiest things you can do is make sure your social profile for your brand page is who are you, what's your purpose, and so forth. And lastly, before we get to FAQ, how to improve. Any website for free, you can hook up Google Analytics. They're kind of free. Obviously, they're going to utilize your information on your website. But you can find out lots of things about your website, where the traffic's coming from. You know, is it coming from Google, natural, how long they're staying on your site, where they're bouncing, all of those kind of things. What you're ranking for. You can tie in your paid ads. There's also sites like Optimizely that you can integrate to your website pretty easy and cheap. That gives you heat maps on what people click, and it also allows you to A/B test, so you can change color buttons. It has or move content around to see what landing page. So when you go to a website now, if people are doing A/B testing, one person will see this version of the page, and another person will see this version of the page. And then whatever one does better is the one that they're going to move to, right? Because if it converts 5% better, right, and you have 1,000 visitors a day and so many percent increases, anything you can do to increase that helps with keep the lights on. You have user testing, where you can even, usertesting.com is a great site where you can hire people to and give them a mission for your website to do something to see if they can do it. Back in the day, one of the things I like about Kohl's website is that they have color swatches under their products. What I learned is we give someone a mission on, hey, go buy, chrome Nerf bars for a Ford Ranger, and people would only click on a picture if it was chrome, not realizing the black picture also had a chrome option because we didn't have color swatches in the deal. So again, sometimes. That's where it pays, I think, to look at some of the people that are really good at e-commerce and how they're doing. Where to learn, go to the internet, go deep, follow the businesses and people you want to mirror, and don't give up. And then, I feel like I'm out of breath.